So the Justice League, to many, are the gold standard when it comes to superhero teams. In fact, when it comes to pop culture significance, they are probably the benchmark for any kind of team-up. They are the ultimate collection of elites, an unstoppable force for good that no evil could ever bend. Except, of course, all the times that evil totally has corrupted and broken them, but that is not the point. So let's take a look at them today. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are the 10 most heartbreaking moments in Justice League history. Number 10. Red Tornado loses his true self. During Infinity Crisis, Red Tornado, or his body at least, was destroyed during a mission in space. After the pieces of his former mechanical self do return to Earth, they're repaired and looked after by Kathy Sutton. Unfortunately, unlike previous times, Tornado's soul does not return to the body once it's repaired. Then it's revealed that Solomon Grundy of all people was behind this. He, along with Professor Ivo, wanted to steal Tornado's body and fuse it with a number of special components so as to create the ultimate vessel for housing Grundy's soul. In the end, the Justice League is able to overcome the bad guys, of course, and Zatanna undoes the spell that's keeping Tornado away from his mechanical body. However, that's when the real tragedy strikes, because after re-inhabiting his old form, Red Tornado is no longer who he used to be. His consciousness appeared to have been altered, and he no longer cares about his friends and family, and even his powers become erratic. To see a character that had been one of the shining examples of how kindness and heroism are always a choice and can come from anyone become a cold, heartless being was absolutely heart-shattering. Number 9. Nightwing's death. Kinda. The highly anticipated follow-up to Trinity War, Forever Evil saw the Justice League battle it out with the crime syndicate from Earth 3, led by their Alfred Pennyworth. As the storyline proceeds, it's revealed that the bad guys held Nightwing as their prisoner, and the climax sees Batman, together with Lex Luthor and others, arrive at the Watchtower where the syndicate has been camped. They find Dick placed in a murder machine, which in turn served as the trigger switch for a bomb. The only way to prevent it from detonating was if Grayson's heart were to stop. Despite Batman's best efforts, Luthor is able to prevent the Dark Knight from saving his original protege, leaving the once boy wonder to die in order to save everyone else. Now, yes, this eventually gets overturned as Lex himself revives Dick, but the emotional trauma and impossibly high stakes nature of this moment still makes it intensely emotional. Number 8. Martian Manhunter is killed. During Final Crisis, John Jones, aka Martian Manhunter, who had been captured before while undercover, is brought before the Secret Society of Supervillains. There, the newcomer Libra, in reality under instructions from the Human Flame, stabs him with a special staff in order to establish his villainous worth, the strike proving enough to slay the mighty Martian. Before leaving the material world, he takes up his true form one last time, and even manages to communicate with the Justice League, passing on the knowledge of his people so that it doesn't die with him. Afterwards, the League arranges a funeral on Mars, one truly befitting their friend, with Superman himself sharing a final tribute to their fallen comrade. Number 7. Sue Dibny's murder. Sue Dibny's death remains one of the most tragic and critically panned in all of comics. The wife of Elongated Man, aka Ralph Dibny, Sue enjoyed a lovely marriage with her husband and even served on the Justice League herself. During the Identity Crisis arc, while Ralph is away on a mission, Sue is mysteriously murdered in her own room. Ralph comes home to make the heartbreaking discovery, with burn marks the only clues relating to the cause of death. This kicks off a full-blown murder mystery, with the entire League determined to find the killer. In reality, though, this was all about the cruel nature of her passing and the taste that it left in our mouths. Subsequently, the storyline has also been bashed by sections of the fanbase, with many calling out DC for simply using one character's death as a means of furthering the persona of another, i.e. Ralph. But even beyond that, it is still a heart-wrenching moment then, and most definitely now. Number 6. Superman burns out Shazam's eyes. The Injustice games and their tie-in comics were DC at its most violent. While superheroes losing sight of the line between right and wrong is surprisingly common, very rarely does it lead to this level of brutality. Now, it's worth prefacing this by explaining that the premise of Injustice is that the Joker has managed to trick Superman into killing his wife and their unborn child. Now, normally this would drive any man to true despair. However, when said man is also the Man of Steel, the potential after effects can be catastrophic. Following the killings, the Man of Steel completely flies off the handle and decides it's time to change the world by force. Sensing that Clark was heading towards establishing a totalitarian regime over the Earth, Shazam squares up to his once brother-in-arms, and Superman's response is, well, to burn his eyes out with his heat vision. It was a direction-setting moment for how the rest of the story would go, and boy oh boy did it deliver on that and then some. Number 5. The Atom walks away from Jean Loring. Identity Crisis was without a doubt one of the most emotionally stunning comics ever. Even aside from the central tragedy surrounding Sue Dibny's murder, there were a number of other revelations and moments that made readers wince, and none perhaps more so than this one right here. Right at the end, the heroes are able to deduce that Atom, i.e. Ray Palmer's ex-wife Jean Loring, is the one behind Sue's death. The truth turns out to be more disturbing than anyone had predicted, as Sue wasn't killed as part of some grand supervillain plan designed at targeting the League. It was orchestrated by Loring to get Ray to come back to her. It was incredibly convoluted and meant that Sue's death was even sadder than initially felt, because she didn't die for some great plot. She died for absolutely no reason at all, thanks to Loring's misguided quest for love. Atom then proceeds to bring his former spouse crashing down to reality, describing her as insane and leaving her to be carted off to Arkham. A depressing affair all around. Number 4. Supergirl's Sacrifice. Crisis on Infinite Earths did not lack for brutality and sacrifices, one of the most prominent of which was the death of Supergirl, aka Superman's dear cousin, at the hands of the Anti-Monitor. The heroes were of course fighting to save the multiverse from annihilation, and during the culmination of this iconic arc, Kara was forced to do battle with the evil cosmic entity in order to try and save her friends, ultimately resulting in them watching her die. In terms of storyline, this was the perfect sacrifice that helped with the continuity cleanup that was the main point behind Crisis. In terms of tugging on our heartstrings though, this exerted way more strain than many of us could bear. Number 3. Batman receives a letter from his father. The Flashpoint comics had absolutely everything you would want from a good superhero story. Heroes battling their past demons, people having to redeem themselves, and the good guys overcoming insurmountable odds. But the best and saddest part was saved for last. Right at the end, after the alternate universe Thomas Wayne is able to get Barry to run back in time to change everything, he also gives the Scarlet Speedster a letter. The letter is addressed to his son Bruce, who in this timeline was killed in the alleyway instead of his parents. After straining every fiber of his Speed Force being, Flash is able to put the world back to the way it was. Kind of. And then he went to visit Batman. Barry gives Bruce the letter where Thomas tells his son how much he loved him, how much he wished he could be there to see him, and how happy he was with the kind of man and the kind of hero that Bruce became. It's not uncommon to shed a tear at this moment. Number 2. The fight against the Black Lantern zombies. Blackest Night was a refreshing yet brutal update to the Green Lantern mythos, and gave us one of the biggest friends turning into foe storylines in comic book history. The premise focused on a mysterious presence that is awakened after 2 Green Lanterns interact with the Black Central Power Battery. Then, an ominous group of asteroids appear, which release a massive number of Black Lantern rings into the universe. The Guardians see this, but they can't act, because they're attacked by the evil Scar. The rings arrive and flood a crypt of deceased Lanterns, reanimating them as bloodthirsty zombies, powered of course by the Black Rings. Inevitably, the fight reaches Earth, where the rings start reviving dead superheroes as the army of zombie Lanterns continues to expand. Eventually, the League and pretty much every other superhero must unite to stand even the remotest of chance. Now, while the universal level stakes were nothing uncommon, the sight of these heroes having to battle the demonized version of their friends, whose losses they once mourned, was equal parts jarring and heartbreaking. And number 1, the death of Barry Allen. Crisis on Infinite Earths is seen by many as the single greatest DC crossover event in history. Sure, these days DC seems to do a continuity reboot every other Sunday, but back then this was a never-before-seen kind of grand storyline. And to this day, it holds a place of its own in the pantheon of iconic comic book arcs. The central figure in this crossover was, of course, the Anti-Monitor, determined to destroy all matter universes and become the sole ruler of a new antimatter universe/universe kind of thing. Standing in his way is his counterpart, the Monitor, joined by a collection of the greatest heroes from across the multiverse. After leading a successful attack on the Anti-Monitor's base, the heroes managed to bring about a temporary end to the battle. However, the big bad Anti-Monitor uses this time to create a new body and find himself a new weapon, the antimatter cannon. Just as he is about to use it to destroy the remaining Earths, in swoops Barry Allen, aka the Flash, aka the Scarlet Speedster. Faced with impossible odds, Barry has no choice but to sacrifice himself in the process of stopping the Anti-Monitor's plan. But what makes his death so significant is that unlike most comic book demises, which typically last less time than the expiry date of sliced bread, this one actually stuck. Barry was gone from the DC continuity for 23 3 whole years. For the sheer weight of the moment and the subsequent consequences, this was perhaps the most heartbreaking moment in Justice League history. And there we go, my friends. Those were the 10 most heartbreaking moments in Justice League history. I hope that you enjoyed that, and please let me know what you thought about it down in the comment section below. As always, I've been Jules. You can go follow me over on Twitter at RetroJ with a 0, or you can swing by Live and Let's Dice, where I do all of my streaming outside of work, and it'd be great to see you over there, my friends. As always, I've been Jules. You have been awesome. Never forget that, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.